It is exactly 8:28 a.m. News and views on Salam Media. Welcome back. And our first guest of the morning is Dr. E.V. Rapiti. He is a family physician with 45 years of experience working in the poorest of the poor communities of Mitchell's Plain in the Western Cape, of course. He has become internationally known for his work, successfully treating very ill COVID patients locally and internationally. He's an avid learner, unafraid to challenge the narrative if it doesn't make sense. Definitely sounds like my kind of a person. He goes on to describe himself as a keen learner and regards himself as an eternal student. He is also the author of a self help book on addiction entitled Four Steps to Healing, and one of the 15 authors in the world to write a chapter on his experience using repurposed drugs to treat COVID. It gives me pleasure to welcome this amazing person to my show this morning. That, of course, is you, Dr. Rapiti. Very good morning to you. Welcome.
Hi, good morning to you, ma'am, and to your listeners. Thank you for having me on.
Lovely to have you here. Today, we're going to talk about the BELA Bill. And really, what you say is that a child's future depends on our action today. What do we need to know about the BELA Bill? And, why should we oppose it as strongly as we are told we should oppose it?
Yeah, first of all, let me say to you that whoever described this bill as a Bella bill, it makes no sense. It's a waste of words. What does the word Bella mean? It means nothing to me. But I'm going to focus primarily on the issues that are of concern. Number one is that children must be enrolled by the age of 5. Now, this comes, and children not enrolled, parents face the risk of being imprisoned for 12 years. Now, this comes across me as extremely dictatorial because it does not investigate the circumstances of the family, where they live, what are their financial circumstances, and what is the child's condition. Is that child school ready? And I think that is not how things should be done. There should be consensus, there should be leeway, and I think very importantly, it ignores the parental right to decide how best to raise their children. I think they're going a step too far. I think parents do have a right. They bring this child onto earth. And I can speak my own experience that when my child was not ready, I was told, and I agreed with that, because children they all do not mature at the same level. And I think the other thing is the cultural differences. I mean, if you take the Islamic school, they've got their own curricula, they've got their own norms and standards. And if we call ourselves a free democratic country that respects individuality and communities, then this goes right in the face of these cultures. I mean, that's becoming dictatorial. So I think from that point of view, they have no right, because they have no, it's been somewhat pejorative to say their system of education is going to be superior to the Islamic schools, because one goes back centuries. I think the greatest mathematicians came from the Middle East. So I think this top-down attitude must come to an end. The second point is that schools under 35 will be shut down. Now, this makes absolutely no sense. It's highly prescriptive, because what happens to people who live in smaller communities, as you know, ma'am, that families are shrinking. You're not getting that many families with children that are school-going age. So out of necessity, you're going to have smaller schools. Now, the risk here is that if you close these schools, these children, bear in mind, 5-year-olds will have to end up taking public and taxi transport. Are these people out of their minds? Because many of our children, 40% of our children are single parents, and those parents are working. Without parental support, how do we expect a 5-year-old child to take a taxi or public transport with the risk of child trafficking and sexual abuse? So they're not thinking, these people. They got their PhD, God knows for what. And the next thing that really grates me, and we should all be opposed to, is comprehensive sexuality education. For heaven's sake, the children is just about learning the alphabet. We want to talk to them about comprehensive sexuality. I myself am getting confused about what is sexuality from the way each person is now or group is deciding to determine what a sex is. I mean, in the past we looked at chromosomes. Now I believe it's the way you feel. I feel I'm a man, but I feel like a woman, so that makes me a woman. I mean, look, that new concept. I'm not going to challenge it. I have nothing, but I think for a grade 5 child, that's a bit ridiculous. You don't need that. And the UNESCO evidence has come out clearly that these so-called CSE programs where they teach children about gender and what gender they are have failed dismally and they do more harm. My concern is that children at this age, when they talk about sex and sexuality, they end up becoming prematurely precocious. They can end up dabbling with sex, experimenting, and is this what we want? And I think anybody who suggests that ignoring the traditions of our African culture, the Muslim culture, the Indian culture with tradition, that we have a certain way in which we raise children. Now, who are these people to decide? And I have you know, it is the UN's policy, by the way. What on earth has the UN got to do with education? Really, the UN is a useless body. If you look at the genocide in Palestine, it's just a cherry on the top. In the last 75 years after the Second World War, they've not stopped one atrocity, not one war. The UN is a waste of time. I don't know why we're even listening to them, let alone belonging to them. So from that point of view, I think it's terrible. We already got a huge problem when it comes to teenage pregnancy. And now we want to encourage, we are tacitly encouraging children to experiment with sex. We don't need that. And so I find that to be dabbling with CSC is missing the point. I really like to know who these people, you must bring them on debate. I would like to know how they set up education. I think they've got their heads in their sand. So the biggest problem, I'm working here in Mitchell's Plain, which is 1.5 million people. Children as young as 6 and 7 are dabbling in Dhaka and Turk. And that's the problem. When I tried to introduce a drug addiction program with my book, they said, oh, you were talking about God. And so the government is against using God and stuff like that. I said, but the issue here is we got to teach our children about drug addiction. That's the serious problem, alcoholism. And on the whole, I think we should be opposing this. It's ill thought out, it's poorly contrived, and certainly I will not take my curriculum from somebody who is promoting wars from the UN. I mean, if you find it's about wars, what right have they to dictate policy on education? So those are some of the things I think what we're producing, our education is off the pole. We spend the most amount of money in Africa, but we've got the lowest literacy rate. We are producing academics. How stupid is that? Because in about 5 to 10 years' time, 90%, yes, you and me, madam, will be becoming redundant with the AI. Are these guys thinking? Are they standing on their feet and thinking properly how we should set up our education system? I never liked school. I never liked my education associate for one simple reason. They didn't allow me to challenge a narrative or a thinking. And I think all our institutions, including our medical institutions, should register themselves as religious bodies because they do not encourage critical thinking. And that is why we found ourselves in the dwang we did during COVID where people were killed. They were killed. Yes, they were killed because they weren't treated. And why weren't they treated? Because doctors didn't think for a moment and say vaccines are bad. And up till now, the evidence is there, but they're too afraid to stand up and speak. I think we need to overhaul the entire education system with public participation. We do not want PhDs who came up with an educational degree to be pejorative and to dictate to us what's the right system of education. We've got too much emphasis on academics, too little on technology, and that is where the future lies. I'm not an academic. I'm a learner. I'm a student. I self-taught myself, and I can tell you, I didn't learn very much from my professors. And I look back at my med school, we were not taught the truth. So yes, I think it's up to South Africans as parents, as cultural entities. You have a right, the democratic constitution protects you and protect your children. We do not need to teach them sex education at the tender age of 5. And we do, and you have a right to raise your children the way you see fit. So that's my take
Absolutely.
on it. I don't know too much more, but I see the whole thing is a lot of nonsense. Even the CAP system is useless. I see children, they do nothing. Madam, I see so many children with learning disorders. All they do, they get ignored and left aside. Autism is ignored, and attention deficit disorder is left and ignored. These children land up on the street, end up drugging. You cannot, it's like banging your head against the brick wall. I, as an individual practitioner, take it upon myself to see to it that teachers get these children re-streamlined into other schools. If I don't intervene, these children will end up circle failures. And I've had very good successes as a doctor intervening and getting these children into the right school. Because when you damage a child's esteem, you damage that child forever, and you make that child a permanent addict and a criminal. Because we're not, it doesn't mean you don't become an academic lawyer or doctor, you're stupid. I think there's one thing called education, there's another thing called intelligence. I'm afraid to say this, I might not be popular for what I'm saying. I find very many educated, including professors, are pretty stupid because they just know rote learning. They do not have the intelligence to apply themselves. My simple analogy is education is like a hard drive on a computer, and the process is intelligence to use it. Many people, highly educated academics, are just nothing more than bloody well hard drive, just have a lot of information, don't know how to use it. And I was successful in COVID because I applied my mind, wasn't in the textbook, and I came up with a solution. And you know what? Nobody wants to listen to me. That's the kind of ethos we live in. People are not prepared to listen to critical thinkers. And anybody who's not prepared to listen to critical thinkers should join a religious institution. That's not learning, it's not science, it's not education. We are thinkers, and that's what we need to produce. So I
So,
come to the
Dr.
public
Rapiti,
to stand up. Yes, ma'am.
okay, so let's, you've said a lot, and I agree with you 101%. You talk about critical thinking. I've raised the question previously with other people on this very show, asking the question, why is critical thinking not introduced in our schools? You'd find that being taught at exclusive private schools only. What is the big thing around critical thinking? Why is it so difficult for it to be introduced in our schools? Let's understand the principles of critical thinking, number one. And number two, you spoke about our education system being geared towards academics. We do know that the dropout rate in universities is very, very high, simply because the students cannot manage. Once they get to that point, they realize what a shortfall has been in their education. They've just been taught the basic necessities, if that. And I think there isn't enough focus on the three R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I think that's where we
Yes.
fall very, very short. So let's look at the three R's. No focus on the three R's, more focus on sexual education. Goodness me, where do they come from with that? Leave that to the parents. The parents will address that in time when they believe their children are ready to handle that. And sensitizing of our children to the whole LGBTQ plus situation. We don't need the schools to do that. We as parents will address it in good time. So your thoughts, and let's look at how critical thinking can, must, and should be introduced in our schooling system.
Well, the thing is, ma'am, critical thinking is a threat to professional, educated people who lack humility. I mean, I know from my own medical school days, or even when I did my MBA, the minute you started questioning something that was in the textbook, they felt threatened. And really, a truly educated, intelligent person learns from their students, not from textbooks. They must be willing to say, gosh, this is something new, and encourage it. So I think it's a fear that they are going to be threatened. In medical school, if you saw any movies on it, these professors went on like little chin guards, walking around and 100 followers following them, and whatever he spoke was the gospel too. And that's the kind of ethos you must break away from. You are not superior because you have a degree or you have an education. And it's not about superiority or inferiority. We must be open to learning. And I have a simple saying now. Intelligence without humility is shutting all doors to future learning. And that applies to my professors. They're so haughty, you wouldn't dare say, Prof, I think this is wrong, because he's going to fail you. So that prof has actually failed to learn something from his own students. So we need to fight for it. We must stop looking at, the quality or the medals that people get or the percentages, the distinction students. You'll find most of my distinction students are not very good at real life situations. Many of them are very good roadmen if you're thinkers, because a lot of our education is based on memory. And memory is not a sign of intelligence. It's not. I don't have a good memory. I'm a good logical thinker. And I don't see the need to remember 101 things. If it's in a place where I can reference it, I'm not going to occupy space, hard drive space, with unnecessary stuff. The first thing they do in med school, list the 20 causes. It's only the first 2 causes important. The rest 18 don't even feature. But you get a distinction because you're so smart. Actually, you got a distinction because you got a photogenic memory. Put you in the real test, you can't think. So critical thinking must be encouraged, and I would urge professors, academic speakers listening to the program, don't be bad. Do not stifle a child's curiosity. That's the building blocks of learning, not what you teach them. Allow them to think. They can apply themselves. And do not see them as having a behavioral disorder or challenging you. They don't teach us discipline, by the way, now. They teach us to become obedient rats. To what I tell you, you listen to me and you repeat and you get your distinction. That's not education for me.
Okay, Dr. Rapiti, I have lots more questions for you. I'm fascinated by what you're sharing with us on air today, but I must also admit that these are similar thoughts that I had when I was at school. Couldn't understand why the teacher wouldn't allow me to ask the type of questions and not agree with the teacher. I always got into trouble because of that. So a whole host of questions I'm going to put to you. We're going to go for an ad break first. We have a question from a listener who is asking, is the BELA Bill dangerous? That's question number 1. I also I still want to hear from you regarding the focus on the 3 R's, reading, arithmetic, and writing. That is important. How does this feature into our children's future regarding their schooling? And then I want to look at the issue you mentioned, something around self-esteem. Sadly, a lot of our children come out of the school system very damaged because the teacher doesn't have enough time for them, because they probably they lose interest very easily because they can't make sense of what the teacher is trying to teach or trying to instill into them, without allowing them to question and to get a better understanding and grasp of what exactly is the lesson all about. And in the process, their self-esteem gets destroyed. And once the teacher starts picking on that particular child, he or she opens the door for that child to be bullied for the rest of their schooling career. And what happens, you as a doctor knows that that child is damaged for life. So please just mull on those questions. We'll get back to you right after the ad break.
Okay.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic Sharia and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings, from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Our brothers and sisters in Palestine are enduring unimaginable hardships. Ashraful Aid teams are on the ground, delivering crucial aid to those in need. But we can't do it alone. Palestine is suffering and they need your help. Your support can make a world of difference. Visit www.ashrafulaid.org today and donate to bring hope, relief, and healing to those who are in need.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
The people of Palestine need your support now. Africa Muslims Agency is on the ground, already providing food, medication, and emergency supplies in Gaza. Donate any amount to Heal Palestine at africamuslimsagency.co.za. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back. It is exactly 8:50 a.m. We have Dr. Rapiti for at least the next 10 minutes. So lots to still cover with him. Akil El Amin, thank you indeed for your posts on Facebook. You go on to say that people need to be encouraged to think in the first place. Most people are not able to think in basic logic. Critical thinking will automatically evolve when people are allowed to use common sense. If one cannot engage common sense thinking logic, they will never be able to think critically. And of course, you go on to say that absolutely correct. I agree with you. Devils are in charge of these institutions and must be removed. He's obviously referring to the Department of Education when these crazy decisions are made on behalf of our children and our future generations. Welcome back, Dr. Rapiti, and you'd like to respond to the questions I put to you before the ad break.
Okay, yeah. Look, the first one about the BELA Bill, it definitely must be scrapped. I mean, if there's one thing that we should, reason enough why it must be scrapped is for the comprehensive sexual education. Our children at 5 years don't need that. If it becomes an issue, I think the parents are the ones that need to be taught and how to deal with it. And in addition to the parents, it is also doctors like me in the front line who need to understand gender differences and how to deal with it in an empathic way. Not in a way that I'm the doctor, I know everything. I think we need to listen to this and we need to learn. There's a lot to be learned. And I don't think 5-year-old children should be subjected to that. I fully agree with you. It's read, write, and arithmetic. Because I can tell you, one of my best friends was, I think he finished that at 6. But he was one of my best friends. He was highly educated in terms of literature. He could speak. So it's got nothing to do with your grade in university. It's your ability to think critically. And I find a lot of our people, including doctors and professionals, seem not to have the handle on how to write the proper sentence. And what went wrong here? Even when they communicate, they cannot get it simply. And Einstein said, if you can't say it simply, then don't learn it again because you don't understand it. And there's been too much of emphasis of writing sentences in an obfuscating way that only the author knew what he was saying. That God only knows if he knows what he's saying. So I agree with you fully. We should go back to the read, write, and arithmetic, and because that is the hallmark. I mean, most of the jobs today are, we produce in this country, we can produce it, but what we got is call centers. What is the most important tool in the call center? It's your art of communication. And I find people do not know how to speak. Because I mean, those people are working in the call center industry. You learn one thing. People need to want to listen to you. When you come swooping down on them without the proper etiquette, how they approach the language, the words you choose, and it does not have to be Shakespearean. Why on earth we're doing it, I don't know. I think it should be reserved for literature students. High school students shouldn't be bombarded with old-style English. There's enough I wrote in my book, and you can go to it, ma'am, and you'll see I wrote it purposely in very simple language. Words are merely a vehicle to convey great ideas. I don't want stupid ideas with great words. I want great ideas with simple words. The simpler the language, the bigger your audience. And that goes for university or high school matriculants who want to mark essays. They need to look at style and simplicity and getting the message across. So, yeah, I feel because this CAP system, where they do projects of cutting things, these children don't even have food, man. They don't have food at home. And they need to have scissors and cardboard and pictures, and God knows where to put these things together. Has it made them any smarter? I don't think so. In my days, we never had all this. The focus was on reading, writing, and arithmetic. Not enough speaking. I think 90% of our communication is speaking, and we don't do enough of that. And so I think the entire education system needs to be overall, and I agree with your one Facebook commentator who mentioned about critical thinking. Critical thinking will only happen when we do not frown upon it. The minute we frown upon, we must encourage it. In our home, and that is how, and I'm fortunate, I came from a family that didn't discourage me. I am where I am today, not because of my schools, not because of my education, but of the freedom to think. And children must be allowed to think. So I hope those answer some of the questions. The BELA Bill must be abolished. We don't need the UN. The UN, that rubbish organization, I'm not afraid to call it that, should be got rid of. They have no right to dictate to us about education. Who on earth are they? They know
So, Dr. Rapiti, I see on this flyer that I have here, the poster, it says 5 days to go. And it says, please use our link to participate in oppose. I think it's to oppose the BELA Bill. How do we go about doing all of this? Do you believe there's enough pressure being put on government to scrap the BELA Bill?
No, because you're the only media that's taking it up. The rest of them, I'm sorry, are captured, man. I don't read any of the newspapers. They're going to they self-destroy themselves during COVID. Because why are we picking this up only now? The BELA Bill was introduced, I think, a year ago. And there's a lady called Catherine Raffaelli who's been doing a lot of work on this. She's more proficient than I am, but I worked with her. I was very focused on vaccine injuries. But I took this up and I just felt from the experience I've had with children, how they've been traumatized by teachers through bullying, and how save these children will become extremely good after my intervention. When doctors say it's not my business, it is their business. When a child is bullied, when a child is tormented, you have a right. There is a place for a referendum on that poster, which they can do. And I think we need to run these conversations more frequently with other speakers with more knowledge than I have. But I'm very clear. I'm an educationist in the sense without a qualification. I know the purpose of education. It must enlighten and make you a better person. Well, I just heard about what India is doing about annihilating a population because they don't like them is a little rubbish. I mean, we must contest this kind of evil atrocities perpetrated on humanity. Can we call ourselves civil and human when we treat another human being with such indignity? Man gives labels to human beings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. We are running out of time. I've got 2 minutes to wrap up time very, very quickly. I need to ask you about bullying. You did talk about self-esteem. What can we do to ensure that the child's self-esteem is being enhanced rather than being destroyed by bullies and wicked teachers? Teachers who don't seem to have time for a child who might be struggling in the classroom. And sadly, those are the kids that get picked on all the time.
Well, look, I found a solution in my practice, ma'am, and the thing is, I would urge, you see, there aren't many doctors who are doing this. You're not a doctor to just treat torture. You don't treat, I'm proud to be a family doctor. I treat holistically. What you need to do is, and what I've done is, I've come across teachers who bully children for their books in front of 45 children. If you're a teacher, that is so demeaning to that child. And children cannot verbalize and articulate their mental pain, but they go through it. And they produce things like come up with symptoms of tummy aches, headaches, school. What you need to do, so parents, go to your doctor and say, this is what is happening. This doctor needs to write a letter to the principal. I've taken people up to the education department, and you know what? I wasn't being vindictive. I'm proud to say 3 of these children I've intervened on. I've done, this didn't pass. They did exceedingly well. And you know what? Some of these teachers actually changing their attitude. I've had one child I intervened with, a parent of 35 told me, I know this teacher. She traumatized us when we were 6-year-old. 42 years on, this mother remembers how this teacher abused her, banging on the knuckles.
Sure.
And it is after my intervention, 40 years later before retirement, she changed in this time. So we as doctors can do something. We as parents, activists, we must go up and children should not be bullied by anybody. Children must know that there is a place. At the moment, where does the child go to? Do we do anything? Is it always available with sexual education? Are you being bullied? And explain to children what is being bullied. Somebody calling you names, somebody threatening you with violence. Speak to you should speak to your teacher. I tell them they're going to do something about it. But I think we as society, man, should get involved as a whole. We become very separated. You know, there's so many millions of people. And so one of the biggest illnesses we're suffering from is loneliness. We're isolated. I'm okay, Jack, and we move on.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, Dr. Rapiti, that is all we have time for. I could sit here talking to you all day. I share your thinking. I appreciate what you've shared with us this morning. And I do hope that parents and teachers and the community sit up and take notice. And please, 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 good people, please oppose that BELA Bill. Dr. Rapiti, once again, thank you indeed for highlighting all these very serious and critical issues regarding the raising of our children. Till the next time, as always, God bless.
Thank you very much. Thank you, listeners. Bye-bye.
1:09 exactly. Zai Jadward is standing by with the bulletin of the morning. Please stay with us.